Hey guys, I want to show you something insanely fun to do on Borderlands 3, and massive shout out to iKudo. He messaged me about this, and another big shout out to Honda Riders. He helped me put all of this equipment together so we could make this happen. But what this is a build for FLAK that is a one-shot boss kill, and I've got it set up here for GRAVEWARD. You can do it with the other bosses, and you can also do it with the other characters. This works after all patches, and this is even after the pipe bomb patch and the beefed up health that they gave to GRAVEWARD, and this is again literally a one-shot kill. I'll show you guys how to pull this off. There's some very specific equipment that you're gonna need, and then I'll show you guys what all you need to do in your skill tree to set this up. This works online, offline, and on all platforms. So first I'm going to show you guys the equipment you have to have, and then how all of this equipment works together. There are 6 things you're going to have to gather in this game, and they're all legendary items. Starting from the top left, you're going to need a specific shield, a specific class mod, the Scourge launcher, a Cutsman SMG, or another type of gun. I'll explain that later. You'll be looking for a very specific type of artifact, and then you will absolutely have to have the Unforgiven Jacob's pistol. I'll explain in more detail about each item and why you need them and what you need to be looking for when you go out to hunt for these items. The first thing you have to have is the Brawler Ward shield, and you get this from GRAVEWARD. So if you farm him enough, eventually he will drop this. The reason why you want this is because one of the bonuses is a plus 25% weapon damage when the shield is depleted. And if you saw in the beginning of the video, I was injuring myself depleting the shield, and then when I went into the fight, I had that plus 25% weapon damage, which helps to put that damage over the edge and just kill him in one shot. So yeah, this shield, not too tricky to get, you just gotta farm GRAVEWARD a little bit. The next thing you have to have is a legendary class mod. If you're using FLAK, then these are the ones you can use, and they're all gonna have different titles, but you're looking for bonuses down in the bottom. That's what's important. You don't need to pay too much attention to the name of the class mod. What you're looking for is down at the bottom, and you need it to say plus 45% Jacob's weapon critical damage. That is important. You're gonna find this plus 45% Jacob's weapon critical damage in a lot of the legendary class mods for FLAK, and then you're going to have all kinds of other different bonuses that go with it. And you definitely want to try to get the ones that are most beneficial in addition to this really high weapon critical damage. Like this one here I found is a plus 18% weapon critical damage on top of the 45%. You don't have to have that plus 18% to make this work, but if you're able to get your hands on one, that's great, but this one might be pretty rare to find. This build focuses on tons of critical damage and weapon damage, so everything we're putting together is going to support that. I'll show you guys some variations of these legendary class mods that you might find. All of these here will say plus 45% Jacob's weapon critical damage, but the other bonuses are different. So finding a legendary class mod with the 45% plus is going to be something that is common. These class mods are world drops, so you're going to find them absolutely everywhere, and you have to find them online. And if you're not playing online, then you might want to go try the slot machine in Moxie's bar. I made a video about that showing how you can get legendary class mods out of it offline. The next thing you're going to need is a legendary artifact, and these are really common. You're only looking for one thing here. You want it to say damage boost of plus 183%. You're going to find this damage boost in all kinds of different legendary artifacts with all kinds of different names and other types of benefits. So if you're farming for one, then just look for that. And you can see right here, I have like 6 different ones that have all kinds of different names and all kinds of different things that they can do. And none of that is important. All you need is that 183% damage boost. That's what you're looking for. And this is assuming you're level 50. If you're below that, then it's gonna have probably a lower number, so just be aware of that. The next thing you're gonna need is a weapon that will cause damage to yourself and then deplete your shield. And I've got a couple of examples here, and there's some other guns out there that will work as well. This one is a variation of the Cutsman, and this one is probably the most efficient. It just takes a couple of shots to deplete the shield and you can get right into the fight. Another option, if you can't get your hands on a Cutsman, is a Torg laser exploder. I've got the fire elemental one here, seems to work really well. I'll show you guys in game how it works versus the Cutsman. The next thing you absolutely have to have is one of the Torg rocket launchers called the Scourge. For this one, it's going to have different prefixes and different elemental abilities. You don't have to have any elements on this to make it work. You can one-shot wreck GRAVEWARD with just a regular, and then one that has fire or corrosive or whatever. I happen to have the fire elemental, which is going to work probably a little bit better, but here's the regular one, and this is the one I use the most, and it works perfectly fine. The next thing you have to have, and it's very specific, is the Unforgiven Jacob's Pistol. Also, I'd like to mention that everything I've shown you so far can be farmed from GRAVEWARD, so don't freak out too much like, oh gosh, there's so much stuff to put together. Well, there is, but it's going to take some time, and trust me, it's worth it if you guys want to try this. So with this pistol, what you're looking for here is the plus massive amounts of critical hit damage, and this one is a plus 432%. With this method, we're doing a little switcheroo. We're coming in with a rocket launcher and firing off the rockets, and then switching to this pistol to trick it to make it think that it's about to do a massive amount of critical hit damage. Now, you're going to find all kinds of variations of this critical hit number. I found one that was like 432%, which is pretty high. I think most of them are in the 300s. Here's another variation that has plus 340% critical hit damage, so that's probably what you're going to be seeing, and this will work perfectly fine. You don't need one in the 400s. So once you gather all of these 6 items, you can start adjusting your skill tree to help benefit what we're putting together here. So again, this is going to be for FLAK, but you can also do this with AMARA and maybe one of the other characters. I haven't really checked too much into what they can do for critical hit damage, but for FLAK, he does some serious critical hit damage if you put on his fadeaway action skill. You can find this under the green stalker tree up at the very top, and on the left you can see that it does 200% plus critical hit damage whenever this action skill is active. The next thing you want to do is build down the green stalker tree. It doesn't really matter what you put on here, but what you do want is this one here on the bottom left called Unblinking Eye. This will give you plus 75% critical hit damage per hit. The next one is also in the stalker tree on the bottom right. You want to put on a jabber and then use the gunslinger jabber. This is going to add a plus 5% critical hit damage. And you guys can obviously make any kind of variations or changes to any of this, but this is just what I'm recommending because it really helps to support what we're doing in the loadout. Another one that can be great is the one at the very bottom of Stalker. This is the Power Inside. It's going to give you plus 25% damage. Another one that can help is on the master portion of the skill tree, and it's called the Persistence Hunter, and this will give you plus 12% gun damage. And as far as the hunter portion of the skill tree, which is the red one, you can put whatever you want in there. These are just the 5 that will probably help you the most. Here's a layout of the stalker and master portions, and you can see which ones you want to select. I'm just trying to give you guys as many visuals as possible because I know there's a lot that goes into this, so hopefully this will make it easier. So once you have everything, it's time to go in and actually execute this thing and one-shot this guy. First, I'm going to show you the laser sploder and how you can use that to damage yourself. What I do is I back up in this corner, you look all the way down at the ground and just fire. If you don't have a wall behind you, it's going to start pushing you around a whole bunch. You want to fire until your shield is almost completely depleted or all the way gone, and then you want to switch to your rocket launcher, drop into the arena. Once you're in there, fire up the fadeaway action skill and then shoot the GRAVEWARD in the chest, and then quickly switch to the Jacob's pistol. After those rockets have taken off into his chest, you've switched to the Jacob's pistol, and now the game thinks that you're doing that massive amount of critical damage to him, and it's going to be delivered through those rockets. I will warn you that this is not easy. It depends on your skill level, and if you're really good at aiming and maybe you've practiced this a bunch, it will be a lot easier, but there are some very specific things you have to do to be able to pull off this one shot while you're in the arena. The most important thing here is that you have to land those rockets dead center in his chest area. If you're off to the left or right or up or down or just a little bit, it's not going to one-shot him. So you got to be pretty good at aiming and know where to aim. You're trying to compensate for a moving platform and him moving forwards and backwards, and once you get the hang of it though, you'll know when to fire, where to look, how to aim, all that stuff. And I'll show you how I do it, and everybody's going to be a little bit different, but first let me show you how to use the Cutsman. All you want to do is back up into this corner, you have to crouch, look all the way down at the ground, and then shoot your left foot until your shield is depleted. For me, when I do this, I drop into the arena, I immediately hit fade away, I try to get to the front of the platform to get as close to him as possible, and then I wait for him to sit up. And right as he sits up, I'm looking to aim my crosshairs in a really specific spot. So again, I'm trying to hit the rocket's dead center of that hole in his chest, but you have to compensate for him moving backwards. And I noticed that if I aimed right there, that it worked every time. I'll zoom in so you can see what I'm talking about here. So the left and right crosshair, like horizontal portion, I line up with the top of that light or hole in his chest. And then obviously you want to be as dead center as possible. You don't want to be too far to the left or right. You need to be right over the top of that light that's glowing, and then try to put your crosshairs there. Again, this is the way I do it because this is how I fly into the arena. This is where I'm already looking when I'm in there, so it works really good for me because by the time I fire it, when my crosshairs meet that portion of his body, he is sat up and then it will center into that hole. And I'll show you guys in slow motion here. You have literally a split second to line up, and then when he sits up, you have to fire it off right there before the crosshairs are completely on top of that light. And you also have very little time because that platform is about to start shifting. Again, this could be tricky for some people, but with practice, like I said in my other videos, you will get better at it. And you'll notice that if your shot isn't exactly right, then you're gonna have a little bit of health left. But if you're doing it just right, you're gonna know it. You'll be like, yep, I landed that perfect. I know that's gonna kill him, and it always does. Here's an example where I fired like a split second too late. Right there, my crosshairs were a little bit too low, and it does go into his chest cavity, but because it's not perfectly centered, you got a little bit of health left. But that's no big deal. You can just take a few shots and kill him and end it. One thing I want to mention that might be obvious is that you need to have your guns in a specific order in your loadout. You want to have the gun that's going to damage you first, and then you'll be able to quickly switch to the rocket launcher, and then the next gun in line will be the Jacob's pistol. Also, this does work online, offline. You're still going to get a ton of legendary drops. If you're offline, you're going to get over 242,000 XP. If you're online, you're going to get about 36,300. To get that 242,000 plus XP, you need to be offline and also in Mayhem Mode 3. Also, if you are in Mayhem Mode 1, 2, or 3, then you want to check the status of what you're dealing with as far as like the benefits or the penalties you might be getting. Every time you start a new game, you're going to be getting new benefits and penalties, and most of them I didn't think were a problem. I was able to one-shot him, but there are some that are going to make it really difficult. For example, this one here at the bottom says enemies take 50% less damage from critical hits, and that's what we're doing here, all critical hits. So this one is going to make it almost impossible. But I hope you guys enjoyed this. For me, this is so much fun to do. I love getting into this arena and seeing if I can get that perfect shot off and one shot kill him. But let me know if you guys plan on trying it, and we'll see you next video.
Like what you see?